The title of my speech is A Wave of Change. And as Kay said, we have a problem. Have you ever thought about just how many times you come in contact with devices or objects that are made of plastic? And what do you do with that plastic when you're finished using it? Well, most of us, we try to recycle it. But believe it or not, only 20% of plastic even gets recycled. 20%. Well, that means we don't just have a problem, we have a crisis on our hands. Today we're going to talk about the overabundance of plastic waste and its impact on us, how we deal with it, and we're going to focus on three things. We're going to focus on awareness, we're going to focus on the trends associated with what we're seeing, and we're also going to look at what companies and individuals can learn from that. The overabundance of plastic waste and how we deal with it has become one of the top issues of 2019, and there's a question behind that. Why has it become such a big deal? Well, it's pretty much because of awareness. Awareness has skyrocketed. While many of us around the world were already aware of it, at the end of 2018 there was a 60 minutes expose on this plastic issue, and they focused on the push to clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, where according to the Ocean Cleanup Organization, the currents and the tides have aggregated more than 1.8 trillion particles of plastic in one spot in the Pacific Ocean. So people are much more aware of the problem. The announcement in 2018 that China, the #1 importer of U.S. plastic for recycling, would quit taking U.S. plastic signaled a major blow to the recycling efforts throughout the world. According to National Public Radio, China used to take in 700,000 tons of our plastic to be recycled a year, and that has stopped. No more. So plastic now gets shipped to countries that can't even process it. And what that means is it sits or it's dumped in our water systems. Our rate of recycling is decreasing. The previous numbers showed, on the average, as I said earlier, 20% of all plastic is recycled. According to National Geographic, the most recent numbers that they have, it's down to 9%. So that's what we're up against. But we're more aware of the problem. We're more aware of that the problem is suddenly gone in the wrong direction, and we're more aware that the problem isn't getting any better. So what trends are we seeing in response to this problem? According to an article by Stephen Baranier in The Guardian, the backlash against plastic and the associated waste has now become a revolt. The anti-plastic movement has been quick to gain momentum, and then you add that current environmental focus to this new movement called Generation Greta, and the world is being told that you better come up with a solution right now, and we're not going to wait too long for you to do it because we will conquer this problem. And this isn't just from Generation Greta. We're seeing an environmental revolt around the world and from all ages. And just don't think that this is a demand for change. Individuals, companies, and institutions throughout the world are increasingly turning their backs to investments that they feel that their key shareholders feel contribute to the pollution of our earth. According to the Washington Post, more than 1,070 companies in more than 30 countries with assets of $8.8 trillion have divested themselves of fossil fuel investment. Now, you think that's going to be an impact on a company? You think that's going to be an impact on an industry? It's tremendous. So the clock's ticking. People are beginning to revolt against the problem of the overabundance of plastic waste, and they're demanding a solution. And many individuals, companies, and again, institutions, as in the case of fossil fuels, are taking matters into their own hands. So what does that mean for your company? What does it mean for you as an individual, and what does it mean for you as an investor? Well, number one, keep an eye on the early adopters and what they're doing. The University of Colorado, years ago, back in 2008, made a decision that they were going to recycle everything at their athletic events. They recycled everything, plastic, paper. But according to the Daily Camera, this early adopter that we're talking about just recently completely replaced plastic as their main container for drinks and beer, etc. So what they did, the tons of plastic that they used to take and recycle after all these games, they've now completely removed that from their equation, and now they're utilizing aluminum. So you had someone at the forefront of recycling, and now they've just completely changed the model again. They're an early adopter. Why'd they go to aluminum? Because 75% of all aluminum is still in use. And it's much easier to recycle, so it's not floating around in our streams and in our oceans. Is your company, your vendors, or the companies you're investing in adding to the problem? According to a list recently published by the environmental group Break Free from Plastic, the worst company for plastic waste, it's the Coca-Cola Company. In beach cleanups throughout the world, they've seen more pieces of plastic being discarded from Coca-Cola packaging than any other company. So names in the corporate world, big names, are being targeted as part of the problem rather than the solution. So we can learn from the early adopters on how our own company can be viewed as part of the solution rather than the problem. Or we can see how some companies that aren't quick to respond can be singled out as causing the problem. That's a great roadmap for companies to follow and a great plan for individuals and investors to watch. So we've talked about a problem, the overabundance of plastic waste and how we deal with it, and we focused on three things. People are much more aware of the problem, and the problem's not getting better. Trends are showing that there's a revolt, people are demanding change, and the clock is ticking. And people aren't just demanding things, they're making an impact. And we're also seeing early adopters make changes in vendors, even in materials they used to depend on. And we're seeing that some entities will be looked at as being a solution or as being the problem. And we can learn from that as companies, as individuals, and as consumers. So in closing, there's no question that we have a problem. Armed with the information we've just reviewed, we now have an idea of not just where we are, but where we're headed. And based on the trends and those entities that are either blazing the trail or lagging behind, we can learn where we are as companies and individuals and where we need to focus our efforts. Thank you.